Hello, Philippines, and welcome to the World News Jam on DZRJ and RJ TV. My name is Eric Lecain, and I'm joined every week with the beautiful Lali Tolentino. Hello, Lali Tolentino. How is your week?
Very good, Eric. What about you?
Hey, it's doing okay. We have survived the latest typhoon, which really wasn't much of a typhoon. Here in Manila, it did rain a little bit today, but seems to be okay now. And I know there's a lot of basketball going on in the country right now. Big sporting week because the FIBA.
Yeah,
FIBA's all around today, which we see a lot of foreigners walking down the street. But that's one of the reasons why I wanted to start out the show this week on sports. Usually we put sports somewhere in the middle toward the end, but this week it's very big story because notably the World Cup of soccer just recently ended, or football, as you non-Americans call it. And as we all know, the Philippines participated in the World Cup, and they scored their first goal ever. So let's all remember that. But the Women's Cup was won by Spain, who beat England 1-0. And this, though, turns out to be not the big story in the World Cup, Lali. It just came down to the excitement in the game. Spain won, and everyone was so excited. They were all hugging and kissing. Well, these days, Lali, you need to be very careful when you get excited and be very careful of who you kiss. Because these days you must be very careful. Which is a story learned by the president of the football team there in Spain. After winning the World Cup, he kissed one of the star players on the lips.
So?
I mean, they just won the World Cup. I might kiss that girl as well. I don't know, but
Eric, that's why it became very controversial. You know, I don't know. I don't really understand now. Well, of course, you know, the guy is it the president or CEO? He kissed.
It's the president of the Spain Federation, Football Federation.
Okay.
And just you can comment on this because the big issue is that he kissed her in the excitement, and she claimed that it was she didn't want him to kiss her, but instead. You know, he came out and he said, well, I made a mistake, and he made an apology, and now it's become one of the biggest stories in the world. And the president of Spanish football has been asked to resign.
And he resigned.
He did not resign. In fact, he decided he would resign. He told everybody he was going to resign. However, he didn't resign, and he said he would never resign, and that, you know, he doesn't think he did anything wrong. And then the entire coaching staff resigned in protest. And then the women's team said they will not play again until the president is gone. And now the president has been suspended for 90 days. And the player that he kissed could be getting sued by her own federation.
My God.
So this has become as big as the World Cup.
Yeah. I was reading it and I told myself, my God, another controversial. Why is it? Is there such a law? Eric, you're a sportsman. You've been in sports for the longest time. Is there something like, you know, you cannot kiss the player, you cannot kiss anyone, especially when you win? Like, you're so excited. You know, sometimes you don't even know whom you kissed, right? There's something wrong.
It's just,
I
don't know. I mean. It's that's a tough one to answer. But the thing that's getting this really going is now the Federation of Spain is saying that she lied about the kiss. And she says at no point did she consent to the kiss. And she wrote, I felt vulnerable and a victim of an impulsive, driven, sexist, out-of-place act without any consent on my part.
Oh, my God.
But that sounds like it was like written by her legal team. The question is, was it really an unwanted kiss, or was it unwanted later once she realized that she had been kissed, or was it mutual? And they're saying that it was mutual, and the president, and the federation, they all say that it was. And they use photos, like a play-by-play of the photos taken of the incident. And the federation wants us to see that the president has not lied. It's actually the player who's lying.
Okay, so sometimes that's the problem. You should not make a comment right away for whatever it is, because you can be misquoted on what you said. Like, for example, when I was looking at it, and I don't see anything wrong when the president kissed her. It's not a torrent kiss like in front of the public.
It wasn't like a Donald Trump kind of kiss.
No,
Yeah.
it's not.
I'm just kidding, by the way. Just an example. Just as an example.
Yeah.
It wasn't that kind of, he didn't take her into a room. Anyway, we'll get to that story later. But, I watched it. It's hard to tell. It looks like it's okay, but here again, the problem, they're calling it forced feminism, where she was kissed and then later she decided that she didn't want it.
Oh, wow. Okay.
It's been, it's one of those things. Now, of course, the team said that they will not play again for Spain until this is resolved. Of course, the federation said you have an obligation that you must participate if you're called on to play. But right now, the woman, her name is Hermosa, is now saying that she's being pressured by the federation there to justify this kiss. Can you imagine, Lali, the president of the Spanish Federation? This is the biggest thing of his entire life.
Yeah.
His lifetime achievement. And nobody remembers that Spain won the World Cup. They can only remember that he kissed this girl.
Yeah. So, what now? So, everything went to something not good at all. I mean, wow.
So there's going to be an investigation. He's going to be suspended for 90 days while they do the investigation.
Yeah, well, that's okay.
He says he's not going to resign, even though he had a meeting amongst the federation. He said he was going to resign, but now he's like, you know what? I'm not going to resign. Well, I didn't do anything wrong. It gets to the point where, in sports, I know where we are in women's sports, that there's a lot of bad things that have happened. The women's gymnastics team, that's different.
Oh, that's different.
That's very different.
Yeah.
But now it's gotten to a point where I have to say, sometimes I feel, and I don't want to belittle anybody, but I feel like it might be a little bit overkill sometimes. And I sometimes have the feeling when I hear this girl speak that it wasn't her, and that there's something else going on here. I mean, they're all jumping at him to resign over a kiss, like the entire coaching staff and the entire players, all of them, over this. It just seems like there's something else, doesn't it?
Maybe. Why? Why there's such pressure? Is there any politics inside this?
I mean,
group?
was there something going on before this whole thing?
Maybe.
And this happens. This happens a lot. Sometimes they win a big event, and who's going to get to take credit for it? And I've been in sports here in the Philippines, and that's a big issue sometimes. When a team wins something, everybody wants to jump in and take credit for it and fire the people that actually had that did the great stuff. So I don't know. It's just amazing that the entire coaching staff has resigned because of this. The team is saying that they will no longer play for Spain again until he is removed from office. And he's saying he's not going to be, he's not going to leave office. And so then the World Federation steps in and puts him on a suspension. Everybody's doing their own investigation. It's just unfortunate because this should be Spain's biggest moment.
Yeah. Why make it so controversial? I don't know what's wrong with them, but it's sad to hear this. I mean, it should not. Everybody should celebrate, but it turned out to be,
Just if you get all excited, just act like you're going to kiss them, and then just go, make a little heart or a little kissing motion, but don't actually kiss.
Like this, like this, or like.
For anybody who's listening on the radio,
oh my
Lali
God.
is making a
Heart.
picture of a heart. But speaking of people that got themselves into some controversy and didn't know how to get out of it. You know, there's this group, Lolly, called the Wagner Group. Now, for anybody who's watching us for the first time, we talk about what I think are the most interesting stories that happened around this world this week. And I think this story is just so interesting, although I knew it was going to happen. When we were talking about this a couple of weeks ago, I knew this was coming. But anyway, this group called the Wagner Group was a ragtag bunch of mercenaries bouncing around the world, acting as sort of a paid military, until a man named 𝗡𝗄𝘄𝘀 turned them all around. He made them a powerhouse fighting force. And I mean, they became so skilled and so well armed that they could bring down entire governments. And he was the main, their group was the main fighting force that originally went into Ukraine to fight for the Russians. Until he realized that that war was based on a false premise. And the reason Putin was for selling the war was not the real purpose, according to this guy. And as far as he was concerned, the Russian military was a bunch of idiots, and it was getting all his guys killed. So, you know, when your expertise is bringing down governments, what do?
Yeah.
You go to bring down a government, except he tried it on Russia. You know, so he came very close to invading and possibly taking over Moscow. He had his tanks right on the edge, ready to go into Moscow, but eventually gave up after a deal was made with the Belarusian president on allowing his soldiers to relocate there. The problem was he went up against Putin and showed the world that it was very possible to overthrow Putin. But when you go up against Putin, usually you end up joining this certain club. And that club was, I was just arrested or jailed or killed by Putin club. Usually when you speak out against Putin or show any aggression toward him, you're pretty much guaranteed
you will go somewhere
to end up dead. So anyway, this week there was a jet and 𝗡𝗄𝘄𝘀 was on board the jet, and it mysteriously fell out of the sky and crashed and killed everyone on board. Someone was able to get it on camera, and I watched it over and over and over again. And it looks like the plane just explodes in midair. It was what Embraer jet, a 135 jet, was flying from Moscow to St. Petersburg with 7 passengers and 3 crew. All 10 bodies have been recovered, and 𝗡𝗄𝘄𝘀 is amongst the dead, supposedly. We can't confirm that because, you know, it's Russia.
Okay, now, let me ask you this. Do you think 𝗡𝗄𝘄𝘀 is, you know, one of them? In your opinion only, we don't know. We're just guessing here.
First thing, I think 𝗡𝗄𝘄𝘀, as I said before, he's a dead man walking. He was going to get killed in some way. Even Putin says, you know what? Let bygones be bygones. We're okay. You just, and then he's bouncing around in Russia, after just, you know, literally going up against Putin. His days were numbered somehow.
Oh, definitely.
So
yeah.
I think, you know, they were very secretive about his protection and how they got it, what planes they got him on. But really, you can't protect a guy like that in Russia forever. And so the way it looked when that jet was flying, it didn't look like a missile hit it. It looked like a bomb went off.
Yeah,
like a bomb went off in the jet.
It was, for me, my personal opinion about this is that everything was planned, and this one is, I think this is it. So, what if ever only he wasn't there, like a movie.
Yeah,
you'll find him, you know, one day.
God, it looked like him.
Yeah, it kind of looked like, oh my God, so he's not dead. So I want to wait for that moment when, I don't know, but I'm not sure about this because I think this is very clear that he's one of them.
I mean, it would be such a great story if we found out later he's like living in Arizona, like, you know, on a ransom or, you know, drinking martinis. But in this particular case, I got a bad feeling that is not going to be the case. You know, what's his name? The Belarusian president, he warned him several times. He said, you know what? You better lay low because they're coming after you. In fact, there's several documented times where people, you know, saw meetings with them, and he said, listen, you're on a list. and here at the top of the list. And even so, he was seen in Moscow multiple times. So they knew where he was. They were following him, I'm sure.
Yeah, he's being monitored all the time, especially after that, thing happened. So they almost take over Moscow that time, 2 months ago.
And Putin described him as stabbing him in the back.
Of course.
So, there's... and interesting enough, on the day that guy supposedly died, the Air Force chief for Russia was fired that day. But just so everybody knows, the Kremlin has denied any involvement in this in any way.
Of course. Who will admit? Nobody will admit, even if they do it.
Putin, of course, denied any involvement in this.
Of course.
Putin also denied that he was ever going to attack the Ukraine. So, how can we can't really. But most of the entire world says that this was the revenge for the uprising in Moscow. Because it was so far, probably the biggest challenge so far to Putin yet.
Yeah.
That he came as close as he did to being probably killed or assassinated or thrown out of his job. So anyway, the Russian government is going to investigate the crash as they took the bodies, for investigation. So the U.S. president came out, Joe Biden, and said, I don't know for a fact what happened, but I'm not surprised. Yeah,
which is true. I kind of agree on that. I'm not really surprised because the guy is capable.
He's not surprised. Several high-ranking members of the Wagner Group were traveling together, which they don't normally do because they don't want something like this to happen, but the leaders around the world totally expected this to happen eventually, as did we here on the World News Jam on RJTV. Even though, Putin said that he was dropping all charges against Prigozhin and he didn't want him dead, many believe that is not true, that Putin had all along decided that this guy's got to die.
Yeah. No need to, forgive. This is it. He's dead, so what can you do?
I know.
No more charges. How can you charge a dead man?
I feel bad for this guy, but you know what? He was a bad guy. He did a lot of bad things in his life. He killed a lot of people. They went into multiple places in Africa and just killed entire swaths of people. But anyway, speaking of things that seem dead, the Republican debate was this week for the nominee for president. And moving past the elephant that was not in the room, Donald Trump, the leader of the Republican Party, was not there. Go figure. Every debate, we supposedly learn something from a debate. So what we learned was, this is not your mom and pop's Republican Party. I think that was the big thing. It just seemed like all they wanted to do during this debate was argue. But I personally took away one thing that seemed to be very apparent from this debate, and that, here again, we'll get to the story, back to the story in a minute, but climate issues, such as the extreme warm temperatures in the U.S. and the fire in Maui, it's just not on the minds of Republicans. In fact, Ramaswamy, the youngest candidate there, some say he won the debate, called climate change a hoax.
What's wrong with that guy?
I mean, there's definitely a split, a partisan split in the country over climate, because a poll was taken just recently, and a question was asked, are the extreme heat conditions in the United States, which right now in the United States, it is really hot, contributed to climate change? 35% of Republicans think so. 85% of Democrats think so. So Nikki Haley, who's also running for president, she said, climate change is real. However, it's the fault of the Chinese and the Indians, and not the Americans.
Okay, so if you're a candidate, you should need to find someone to blame. I don't know.
Blame everybody but us. Yes, because the Americans have nothing to do with climate change.
Oh my God, another brilliant idea.
So anyway, that was my personal takeaway. But the real takeaway from this debate, I think, if you watched it, I don't know why anybody here in the Philippines would watch it, was not really the issue on the wildfires that are burning the country, but who could burn each other on stage. The 38-year-old tech entrepreneur that I was just talking about, Vivek Ramaswamy, he seemed to be in the middle of the whole thing because he's been rising on the polls, and he was placed in the middle of the stage. So first, let's see if we can get this. Ramaswamy said we should elect this skinny guy up here with a funny last name, talking about himself. And Chris Christie said, you know, who was the only true Trump hater in the whole group, said to Ramaswamy, I've had enough already tonight of this guy that sounds like Chat GPT standing up here. The last person who said elect a skinny guy with a funny last name was Barack Obama, and I'm afraid we're dealing with the same type of amateur. So anyway, Ramaswamy fired back. He says, you know, give me a hug like you did Obama, you know, going back to this reference of 2012 when Christie hugged Obama after Hurricane Sandy. You know, he was the governor of New Jersey then. But anyway, Pence threw in a few shots as well to I can't even say his name, Ramaswamy. Now is not the time for on-the-job training. We don't need to bring in a rookie. We don't need people without experience. We don't need a president who's too old. He said, we don't need a president who's too young. You know, everybody's like,
oh my God, yeah.
But the real takeaway in this debate was the audience. I mean, I don't remember a time in a presidential debate for nominee of the presidency where the audience was so involved in what was going on. It didn't seem that far from, you ever watch pro wrestling? I know you do, Lolly. Pro wrestling match where the wrestlers are not fighting, but they're up on stage doing their vocal smackdown on each other. You know, they're cutting each other down. That's what it was. So, you know, Chris Christie said that Donald Trump, you know, because this, you know, obviously the elephant not in the room, that came up about Donald Trump, that what he's been doing lately is beneath the office of the president of the United States. The whole place erupted in boos. The president wasn't even there. The ex-president wasn't even there. You know, and then Ramaswamy chimed in, your claim that Donald Trump is motivated by vengeance and grievance would be a lot more credible if your entire campaign was not based on vengeance and grievance against one man. But then he also is kind of for Putin in the war. So I mean, it's mind-boggling that the fact that even though Trump was not there, he was there. In fact, when it was over, and we'll talk about him in a second, he came on TV and said, I was the winner.
Yeah, because, you know, I think the reason why he doesn't want to go to that debate yet is because probably he just want to see how they, you know, how they're going to debate, and then maybe later on he will join. And, you know, because he's doing a lot of things for himself, so why join? And he thinks he knows everything already. He said that many times. I know everything. That's what he said. I know everything. Why do I need to be there?
Maybe I would do that too. I mean, when you're 50 points ahead of everybody else, and people, there's guys in the debate that are polling at 1%, 2%, and you know, Ron DeSantis, who everybody thought was going to be the guy to beat Trump, was like nowhere to be seen. He was there, he was talking, but I mean, he just didn't come off as very charismatic. I mean, I watched him. You know, he had good pre-done answers, but you know, he didn't get the zingers in like Chris Christie did. You know, and that's what it seemed like the whole debate was about. Who could get in the best zinger? It wasn't really good policy or not a big discussion about a lot of things that we needed to discuss. It was just like, you know, who can get the burn on the next guy. But meanwhile, Lolly, the U.S. President Donald Trump skipped the debate altogether for the reason that he's so far ahead.
Oh, yeah.
What's the point?
Yeah, what's the point? Yeah, he's already how many points?
Why do I need it? So instead, on the same night, at the same time, he did an interview with Tucker Carlson, Trump's news lackey there, who behind closed doors, he hates Trump. He said that. However, in public, well, he's doing an interview with Donald Trump. So the interview with Donald Trump was exactly what we expected. No new news. Trump, Tucker basically, put the softball on the tee and said, "Hit it, Trump," and that's pretty much, no questions on the mountains of criminal indictments against him. However, he did ask one question. He asked, "How do you get indicted every week and stay so cheerful?" That was the question he asked. But But the interview, he dragged on with the usual Trump stuff,
Yes,
you know, the
same narratives.
scores he needs to settle, you know, about everything that he's worked with. But one weird thing came up in that interview, which one thing that I wanted to talk about was the subject of Jeffrey Epstein. Jeffrey Epstein's a friend of Donald Trump. They were really good friends. He was held in a federal prison for underage sex offenses and supposedly killed himself in a federal prison with armed guards and CCTV cameras all around.
Yeah.
Killed himself.
We talked about that a long time ago.
Lolly and I have discussed that, what we think about that. Anyway, he asked Trump if he thought Epstein was killed and covered up. Trump, weirdly, did not say that Hillary Clinton was responsible for Epstein's death, but instead, well, he probably killed himself, which, okay, there you go. There's the big story coming out of that interview. And Tucker Carlson also asked Trump if he thought his political enemies were going to kill him. And Trump responded, of course, they are savage animals. These people are sick. You know, of course, we're not mentioning the fact that Trump's own followers were trying to hang Mike Pence, you know, and Trump was saying, you know, maybe he deserves it. So, anyway, but of course, the big thing, which we're going to have to get into our discussion now, the ex-president, slash from skipping the debate, you know, if that wasn't historical enough, the next day, Trump showed up at jail in Georgia to be arrested and fingerprinted and photographed.
Yep.
This would be the fourth indictment in just a few months. The only other U.S. president ever to be indicted was no one. There's never been another president that's ever been indicted of a crime.
Yep.
And he's been indicted 4 times in just the last few months.
Yeah, I mean, 4 times, and he still deny everything. Everything. It's like saying he's innocent in all the charges, and wow.
I am. I'm sitting on this mound of evidence. I'm innocent. Anyway, he was treated he was treated abnormally for him. You know, they once he got to the jail, once he got out of his plane and had the police escort and everything take him in, he, like everybody else, they said, the sheriff's department said, they arrested him, they fingerprinted him, they gave him a number, P01135800809.
809, yes. And the mugshot.
And the mugshot. Now, the mugshot, Lolly, you know that Trump, he rehearsed this. He rehearsed exactly how he was going to look, because he has this kind of thing where his chin is down, and he's looking at the camera, this kind of ominous look. Some people say that his chin was down because he didn't want to show the fact that he has 3 chins now, but I don't know if that's true. But on the day that Trump's campaign, they released that picture, they started selling T-shirts with that picture on it. Now, the T-shirt that I saw from the Trump campaign has been doctored to show him standing in front of a height chart that says that he's 6'5".
6'5", is he?
He's not 6'5", and underneath it says "not guilty." But can you imagine? They knew ahead of time they were going to do this. They knew they were going to take the mugshot.
Yeah.
He posed for it. They got the mugshot immediately. They were able to print up shirts with that shot on it and get them on sale on his website in the same day.
Yeah. You know how much they got?
Okay. Just so you know, the T-shirts are free with every $47 donation. Or
47.
more.
So $47.
And you get a free T-shirt.
Free T-shirts. So that's the cost of the T-shirt, $47.
No. You're donating it to the Trump campaign. You're getting the T-shirt
but
for
there's
free.
a T-shirt. So it's like buying a T-shirt for $47.
Now, on the other side of things, adult film star Stormy Daniels, who Trump paid $130,000 to keep quiet about her spanking him with a magazine before they had sex, allegedly. She also started selling T-shirts of Trump the day after his arraignment that says things like "Happy Indictment Day." So, and it's the same picture I was talking about of Trump showing his multiple chins. One picture with his head up, that's been doctored a little bit, and a height chart behind him that shows him very short, like 5 foot something. So anyway, Trump is not 5'6". Now, according to his arrest report, he's actually 6'3", which brings up another interesting point. Trump's biometrics from his arrest have him listed at 215 pounds.
218 pounds.
15 pounds.
Okay, 200. Okay.
Now, we know he lied about the election because of the massive multi-million-dollar investigation into the election. However, I think this lie is not going to take that much money to look into, because all we have to do is look at a picture of Trump to know that he does not weigh 215 pounds.
Yeah, but they already made $7.1 million.
Oh, my God.
Already.
Oh, my God.
Oh, yeah.
Let me just... According to the Trump campaign, they raised $418 million on the day following the arrest in Georgia, and $7.1 million since he's been arrested, and $20 million since his indictment of the January 6th related stuff.
Yeah. So, some of my friends, we were talking about this earlier, and we said that probably is the best way to raise funds.
Get yourself indicted.
Yeah,
on a federal charge, and then get yourself indicted on a state charge. You can make $7 million.
Yeah, exactly. But the problem
Trump
is,
can.
Yeah, but the problem, Eric, is you are not Trump.
Yeah, that is a big
problem. That's trouble.
I don't know if that's a problem or not. I don't know if I don't have the chins yet. But there's been criticism on this kind of fundraising, because the fundraising is supposed to be for his reelection. However, he's using the money to pay for his legal bills.
Yeah, exactly.
And also to pay for people's legal bills who may turn on him.
Yes. They need that. They need that money.
They need that money. Trump's people say they are happy with the way the indictment went, and they are happy with the coverage they got from the indictment in Georgia. Can you imagine your team is saying, you know what, we're very happy with the way it went. We love the coverage. We love him coming down the road and getting out of the car. All the shots of him going in. So the arrest that he took on in Georgia, of course, is based on the indictment. 41 charges associated with it, 18 co-defendants, including Trump and including Rudy Giuliani, who is one of our favorite people here on the show.
Oh, yeah.
Who seems to be flipping, then not flipping, then flipping again. And then Mark Meadows, also indicted, the chief of staff there, who also flipping, then not flipping.
I don't know what's wrong with those guys.
It's been so many twists and turns in this thing. Right now they want it, and somebody asked me about this. Filipino asked me about this. Why do they want it moved to federal court? Because that's one of the big things. And the reason they want it moved to federal court: location. Because, they're in state court. So state court happens in the city. In the city, that's where the jury pool would come from.
Yeah.
People hate Trump in the big cities. The big cities is where the educated people live. People, professionals, whatever. He gets the worst numbers in the city. Where he gets the best numbers are very rural, less educated, blue-collar worker, people that work in the factory. Those are the people that love Trump. If they can get it thrown over to federal court, then the jury pool will be moved to a rural area, to a federal court.
So that's how it works. So
it's all about like where the court's going to be and where they're going to get the jury pool from.
Do you think it will be, they can do it, do you think?
Yeah, I mean, right now they are desperately trying. I mean, Mark Meadows is the first one to try. And of course the big issue too is when is this thing going to start? And that is a big controversy this week because of course we want it to start as soon as possible. And the fact that it's state court, video cameras are going to be in the courtroom. It's not these drawings, whatever. So everybody wants it. But as we know in the past, Trump's big thing, he's been sued thousands of times.
Oh, yes.
And his main strategy is always to delay. He delays as long as possible until the people that are suing him, they run out of money or they just give up. In this case, Trump wants to delay it as long as possible. Remember, he said he had that motion that he put in court that he wanted to delay till 2026.
Yeah. My God, that's how many years from now? If
if he were to win the presidency, he can make this whole thing go away.
Oh yes, for sure. Yeah.
Except the state court. He's going to have problems with the state court. However, he's not the only one on trial here. There's another guy whose name I love. His name is Mr. 𝗡𝗲𝘄𝘀. So 𝗡𝗲𝘀, who was one of Trump's key advisors, was asking for a speedy trial, and he has the right to do that. Sidney Powell, that crazy Trump lawyer, who said that the dead ex-leader in Venezuela somehow had control over the voting machines in the U.S.
Yeah.
Anyway, she wants a speedy trial. John Eastman, the guy who begged Trump for a pardon because he knew that they were doing something illegal, and Trump didn't even give it to him. So anyway, the judge came out and says, okay, all right, everybody be quiet. The trial is set for October 23rd. Holy cow. I didn't expect that. So the Trump's team almost had a cow. They were like, whoa, we can't do it then. So they said that they're going to sever ties with everybody. They want their own trial. And this is now going to go before a judge and see if Trump can sever this trial. And the judge said, for now, everybody relax. This is only for Mr. 𝗡𝗲𝘀 that we're going to do this. So, but everybody knows Trump wants to do this for a couple reasons. One of the big reasons is he wants the trial to happen before somebody else's to happen first, so he can see what they're going to do, what they're going to say.
Yeah, that's a strategy that they're trying to do. Give one example and see what happens.
Yeah, see what happens. But it's mind-boggling, isn't it?
Yeah.
The twists and turns it's going to go through.
It's kind of exciting.
The jumping, positioning for where they're going to be in the trial. And in the meanwhile, Trump isn't paying a lot of these people's legal bills. And this is going to be, I think, the biggest thing in this. Somebody is going to flip. And I think that is what we're waiting on right now. Between now and October 23rd, Trump is not treating everybody equally.
Oh, yes.
He's taking care of the people that he thinks he needs, but other people that he doesn't think he needs anymore, he's not. And are those people going to turn their back on him and give him up for their own freedom?
Yeah, I suppose there will be some development before October 23, because how many of them? There's a lot of them.
And the big question, of course, is, we're running out of time here. The big question, of course, is if Trump gets convicted and he wins the election, does anybody know what's going to happen? Yeah. I don't.
I don't either. I will watch. Don't worry. I'll watch Eric.
But here on the World News Jam on DZRJ every Sunday at 7, we will tell you.
Yes.
But speaking of fires that we need to put out, Maui in Hawaii, we have talked about them the last couple of shows because they had that big fire there. They're up to 115 deaths.
Yes.
However, only 46 of those deaths have been absolutely confirmed. And the reason that is, Lolly, is because it was a fire, and a big fire, and a hot fire. And sometimes in these types of fires, it can be very difficult to identify the dead.
Yeah.
Right now, Lolly, there are over 400 people still unaccounted for.
Wow.
And they're trying to figure out if they were in the fire and this is their house and their house is completely burned to the ground, are they in there somewhere?
Yeah, that's a question. They have the records of people living in that area. I'm sure they have the data.
Yeah, they know whose house it is.
Yeah, but the question is, were they there really, or maybe hopefully they're out. Hopefully they're out of the house.
Why? And if they were out of the house, why have they not contacted any of their family yet?
That's another question.
So it's a little hard to swallow. They're looking at DNA records and dental records and fingerprints and medical hardware. In the body, some people might have a knee or a hip or something. But still, it's a problem because a fire as hard as this, the governor of Hawaii said there's just some people are going to be lost forever.
Yeah.
That we are never going to be able to really find, of the 99 recovered bodies so far, only 3 were identified by fingerprints. So what I wanted to get at today was what they are using, the technology that they are using to identify people in this thing. And it's this new technology. It's a portable DNA device that they're using in the field. And they can do an analysis. They can take some ash and put it in it and analyze it in 94 minutes. You know how long it took to do this before? Before you had to put it in a bag and send it off to a lab and get it back like, a week or two later.
Okay.
So the big thing is the fact that they can see right out in the field, is this a board from the house or is this what's the remnants of a human? And if it is the remnants of a human, can we check the DNA against their brother or their child or their, somebody who is a blood relative of them to see if it might be them? And I just find this kind of tech just so incredibly fascinating that they're able to do this and they're able to use it in this kind of situation.
Yeah, that will be, well, for me, it would be nice if they can really, use the technology to determine who are they, what is in there, things like that. So, because it's hard now, because they're all burned. I mean, all ashes.
I know.
So what is it, human, or is it the wood? Is it the, I don't know.
It really is. I mean, they were talking about it on this video that I was watching, and they were saying, when you walk over to the house, you may be stepping on the person.
Oh, wow.
You don't know, because everything is going to look the same.
Yeah.
It burned for so long, and it was so hot that there's absolutely nothing left.
Yeah.
And, they said, they were looking for fingerprints, but there's no fingerprints left. They were looking for dental. There's no.
Yeah, how can you?
The teeth were.
Yeah, how can you tell?
Really burned.
Burned. Yeah.
So they have this. They were explaining how this DNA module works, and it is just absolutely fascinating. And that they can put it in there, and then 94 minutes later they can say, okay, we know that this is a human, and that we have found the spot, and at least they will know, and at least they have some remains that they can give back to the family.
Yeah, they have the data anyway, so probably, they can tell this is so and so, whatever. Just special for Filipinos, because we are basically, Filipinos are very, very religious. They have this thing.
I know. So are people in Hawaii, very much like the Filipinos. But just really quickly, moving on, speaking about fighting for your life, there was a surfer who's fighting for his life right now from a attack that happened this week by a shark off the coast of Australia. And the reason that I'm bringing this up was, first thing, shark attacks are so rare. There have been, I think, 10 shark attacks the whole year.
Wow.
No, in all of 2022, there have been 10 shark attacks around Australia. But this one was a little weird because humans are not a food source for sharks. In fact, supposedly humans don't even taste good. When the shark bites into a human, usually they spit it out and they swim away. This wasn't that. This was a shark attack that the shark attacked him and then attacked him again and then attacked him again multiple times over a period of almost 30 to 40 seconds. When he finally got to the beach, his foot was gone, his legs were all chewed up, he had bite marks all over his body. They saved his life. He's still fighting for his life, but I mean, he's not dead yet.
So he's not dead. Oh.
But the interesting thing is they were talking about how that in some ways the water temperature is making animals act strange. And coming from Australia is actually cold now, and so it's weird how the sharks will swim through. Something's wrong. Like they're expecting something and it's not that, and it makes them aggressive. There's a lot of interesting theories on why this happened.
I want to know that. Why?
I know. I just find, so anyway, be careful if you're off the coast of Australia, because there's sharks there that won't give up.
Yeah,
they want to fight. They want to take a bite out of you. They want to eat your foot. But anyway, they say that sharks generally do not do this. In fact, this was very rare that they would continually.
Actually, what I know about shark, when they attack you, they normally swallow you right away.
Well, they take one bite and they realize they made a mistake and then they run.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, that first bite can be lethal, But as of last year, only one person died in Australia from a shark bite. But usually it's just the first bite, and then it's one bite, and that's it. Very rare do they continually keep attacking you. But, looking at what's bad about animals, here's something that's good about animals. This week in Tennessee, a baby giraffe was born. And the reason this is such a big deal is that giraffe has no spots.
Really?
So giraffes have spots.
Yeah.
This is a reticulated giraffe, which there's only 4 species of giraffe. This is a certain species. And giraffes have spots, which are blood vessels that very intricate blood vessels underneath the spots, because, giraffes have one of the largest hearts of any animal in the world, because they got to get blood all the way from the foot all the way to the ceiling. So they have like a 25-pound heart. That's some ridiculous, massive heart that they have. So it's so incredibly rare that a giraffe would be born without this. This anomaly, in fact, this may be, they said, this is the only one on the planet.
Wow.
So
it's in Tennessee right now?
Yeah, it's in Tennessee.
Do they accept someone who will adopt it? I want to adopt that, a giraffe.
Lolly, baby giraffes are 6 feet tall.
Oh, so baby giraffe is as tall as you?
Yes, baby giraffes are very tall.
Okay.
So
forget about it.
In any case, I just wanted to
That's a nice story. I mean, first time that I heard that the giraffe with a spotless giraffe.
A spotless giraffe. And that is the only one, so that's why you haven't heard about it before. The last one that was born was in 1972 in Japan. It's amazing how I know all these facts, isn't it?
Wow, I don't know.
But yes, in 1972. But speaking of things that are great that you can put in your house and that you can hold in your hand, although you're going to need to do something to get this, Lolly. Austria. In Austria this week, they thought it would be a good idea to give away free rail tickets for a year. Unlimited rail tickets for a year, which, by the way, cost 1,000 euros to get. However, you need to do something.
What?
You need to put the rail company's logo and tattoo it on your body somewhere.
Huh?
No kidding.
Really?
If you tattoo that on your body, if you tattoo climate ticket, which is another word for a climate ticket. It's a new promotion that they're doing there in Austria to try and get people to, take the train instead of driving the cars. And so if you will just tattoo the words climate ticket on your body somewhere, you can get a 1-year unlimited free rail pass.
Well,
anywhere.
If I live in Europe, I might consider, but I live in the Philippines and I have no visa going to Austria, so
I figured you might say that. Now, there has been a lot of criticism to this woman, the woman who is the head of the transportation board. She's actually the Austrian climate minister, and this is her idea. And there's been a lot of criticism from the NEOS party, of course, the opposition party.
Of course.
That we are offering people money for putting advertisements under their skin, reveals an unacceptable view of humanity from a government minister. However, the people behind the campaign said it's been accepted positively by everybody, noting that most of the people that have done this already have a lot of tattoos. And they just wanted to put it on because, everybody knows about this thing. It's a big promotion. So everybody can look at it and say, hey, look, I've got the tattoo on. I have a 1,000 euro rail pass for free.
Well, you know what? That's very interesting. Why not? I mean, I've seen a lot of Filipinos here. I know some of friends has that tattoos all over the body for nothing. I mean, I told them, you know what? They said it's an art. There's an art, whatever. And I said, you know what? The reason why I don't like tattoo before because the people who came from, jail, they have the tattoo. Remember before?
But now tattoos have evolved.
Yeah, everybody wants to get tattoo. Like in Florida, I mean, there's a place there that they go there for tattoo for I don't know. And I said I still don't find it. It's not good. It's not healthy.
I mean, the days of Navy personnel putting "my mother" on their arm are over.
I don't know.
They put some elaborate stuff on. But anyway, I thought this was kind of a great idea. Speaking of traveling, though. We got a little travel news here. Lolly, so far this year, Russia and Japan have sent spacecraft to the moon. and both of those spacecraft to the moon have crashed. But somebody this week landed a ship on the moon, and that was India.
India. So they're smarter now, huh?
Who would have guessed? India's been in the space program for a while now. They have put some major money down. But what India has done is absolutely amazing. And we'll get to the cost of it in a minute, because India has gotten really good at sending things to outer space for cheap. And one of the first things, they put this spacecraft down on the surface of the moon. There's a 3-minute video, which everyone should watch. It was released, the mission of 𝗡𝗲𝘄𝘀. It's 𝗡𝗲𝘄𝘀-3, because there were 2 other ones. The last one crashed. They got it to the moon, but then it crashed. This one landed safely on the moon. It's a soft landing. Dropped it down. The Vikram landing and the 𝗡𝗲𝘄𝘀 rover, due to spend 2 weeks there on the moon. So far, the rover, I love this, it has left wheel prints in the shape of the Indian Space Agency's logo. So the first thing they did was mark an advertisement they put on the moon. But they are the 4th nation ever to successfully put a spacecraft on the moon. This is an unmanned spacecraft. Unlike the only people that have ever put a man on the moon was the U.S. Although some people deny that, but I'm pretty sure they did that. But anyway, the amount of money that India spent on this was $74 million.
$74 million.
And that may seem like a lot, but it's really, the movie Gravity was more than $74 million to make. And most of the trips to the moon cost like $1 billion. So this is incredibly cheap that they were able to put this thing up.
$74 million.
Like I said, the movie Gravity, I don't think they even paid, George Clooney that little money. But anyway, interesting enough, Putin called up India to congratulate them.
Oh, really? Are they BFF?
Just a week before that, just a week ago, before India Russia tried to put a craft on the moon and it crashed. So, Putin's like, well, hey, if I can't get one up there, maybe I'll just be friends with India. And then we'll say we did it together as a team.
Why not? Why not?
But anyway, the rover's up there now. It's driving around, collecting some samples and doing some experiments. And the Indians, get this, they have a plan to send their own mission to Mars. One to Mars and one to Venus.
Wow.
Because I think there's only been one successful landing on Venus so far, and so India thinks they want to get in on this. They have a lot of money they're putting into this space program, and so they really want to really get this off the ground.
Why not? I mean, they started already with the moon, so why not go somewhere else and discover other things that you can do? I mean, brilliant people. I mean,
brilliant people.
Yeah.
Speaking, there's one thing in India that you have to be careful of, and this is something we're going to talk about for just a few minutes here, because this is something that I've been looking into a lot this week. This has been, we try and do health news on the show every week, Lolly, and this week we're going to do some health news, especially about this one article that I read, which I found so fascinating, and it's about the color of your poop. Now, not to say that India has a problem with disease. I'm not saying that. Good luck on your space travels. But I found this article so fascinating, and I thought I would use it as our health article this week, that it should be brown, in case you didn't know, which comes from the breakdown of, and I tried to remember it, bilirubin, which is a pigment created when the old blood cells break down in the liver and bile, and it's typically turns into this dark brown color, which means you're normal. But if it's green, not unlike your shirt, that means that it moved through the GI tract too rapidly. And so the green bile is in its original form, means could have an infection. Now, if it's yellow or orange, that means that there's an increase in excessive fat. This could mean there's poor absorption of fats, and that could mean celiac disease or a pancreatic condition. Now, if it's black, this could be more serious. Could mean melanin, which is internal bleeding in the upper GI tract. such as the esophagus, of the stomach, or part of the small bowel. If it's white, go figure, that can be caused by a condition of the liver, bile ducts, and the pancreas. But if it is red,
What is it?
very serious.
Oh.
You need to go to a doctor because that could be bleeding from the lower colon area. And this could be because usually if blood goes into the stomach, according to this article, blood goes in the stomach, it gets digested and it gets changed. It gets recolored because it processes the blood in the small intestines and it turns up being black. But if it's red, that means it has not been processed. That means you're having a bleed. You're having a GI bleed. And it's directly going into the colon, into the large intestines, and you need to see a physician immediately.
Wow. Well, so I have
I
to
blew
check
through
my
that
poop
really
every-
fast.
I know, but I need to check my poop every day. So what's the color? So there must be something wrong with, I don't know, with my organs.
Check your poop. Is it the color of my shirt, or is it the color of Lolly's shirt?
Yeah.
So,
you better check.
on that note, on that poopy note, we need to end the show. So, but I wanted to get it. I want to get a little health news in. So this is the health news, especially for people that are our age, mine,
Yeah.
Lolly's ages. So for everybody out there, please have a safe week. Don't forget to check your poop. Lolly for me and Lolly Tolentino here on the World News Jam on DZRJ and RJTV. Everybody have a safe week out there. Be careful, and we'll see everybody next week.
The views and comments of the hosts and guests are not necessary.